After successfully putting out 5 films, it was time for everything to finally come together with Marvel's The Avengers, and what would collectively become known as Phase 1. Releasing worldwide on May 4th, 2012 on a budget of $220 million, The Avengers would go on to stun the entire world and change the course of Hollywood by making $1,519 million in a course of 8 weeks in theaters. And when it comes to the critics, they definitely agree, sitting at a very fresh 92% with 302 fresh reviews and 26 rotten. This remains one of the highest rated comic book movies of all time. And as the film opens up, we catch up with the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and what they've been up to. It turns out that the cosmic cube that Dr. Salvag was working on ever since the post-credits scene of Thor is suddenly acting up, and everybody is on high alert. Out of nowhere, a giant spark of energy suddenly bursts and the one and only Loki, half-brother of Thor, shows up. Carrying a brand new staff that can alter how people react and make them work for him, it is up to Loki to now work for his new master, who as of this moment is still unknown. After this, we catch up with each member being recruited, and the man of course in charge of the recruitment is Agent Coulson. Natasha Romanoff is of course being interrogated, or as it turns out, she's doing the interrogating. After she's successful, Agent Coulson tells her that it's time for her to get the big guy. As we catch up with the big guy, he just so happens to be hiding in a remote location. That's right, the Hulk is about to join the team. Next up is Captain America, who just so happens to be boxing as Nick Fury comes to question him. This happens to be the exact same scene that played out at the end of Captain America: The First Avenger. Next up, we see Pepper Potts and Tony Stark, who are visited by Agent Coulson himself, who is here to recruit Iron Man for this important mission. Once all the members are together, they meet on top of the helicarrier, which they think is just a floating command ship, which then proceeds to reveal its turbines and start taking off into the air. Over in Germany, we see that Loki is up to no good, trying to get more details and trying to recruit more people. The Avengers are quick to show up and stop him. After capturing Loki and going on their way back to the helicarrier, the Quinjet suddenly feels a powerful shake. The arrival of Thor is upon us. Thor goes inside, grabs his half-brother Loki, and throws him out the plane. The Avengers then follow suit and continue to actually have a small fight in the woods below. After all is said and done, everything is okay and they're back on the helicarrier with Loki safely locked up. The team is having a hard time working together. As it turns out, this was Loki's plan all along, to get them together and to make sure that the big guy reveals the Hulk and he goes on a rampage. As that's happening, the evil forces that were led by Loki figure out exactly where the helicarrier is. They show up, try to bust him out, all being led by Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, who is still mind-controlled by Loki. On the inside, we see the Avengers all struggling to actually try to save the ship, all meanwhile trying to stop these evil invading forces. Hawkeye is turned back to normal by Natasha, Captain America and Iron Man save the ship from falling, and Thor is betrayed by Loki once again and almost falls to his death. He's able to rescue himself at the last moment. But we do have our first casualty in the MCU, as Agent Coulson is killed by Loki. And this is the big pushing moment that is going to unite the team together. Dr. Salvag, still being controlled by Loki, is now in New York, shooting a giant blue laser into the sky to allow the armies to come in. This army consists of the Chitauri, who are also on their own flying vehicles, being followed by the giant Leviathan creatures. One by one, the Avengers unite and start stopping this threat, saving the people in the city and trying to stop Loki from executing his master plan. In the end, it is down to Iron Man, who is willing to sacrifice his own life, carrying a nuke that was about to hit New York and destroy everything up into outer space. He falls down and is rescued by the Hulk. After the Avengers save the day and everything is back to normal, Loki is handed over along with the Cosmic Cube to Thor, who ends up taking him back to Asgard. The Stark Tower is now properly rebranded the Avengers Tower, and the Avengers all go their separate ways, as Nick Fury proclaims, "When we need them, they'll be here." And for the first time, the post-credit scene is nothing important. It's actually a funny gag of all of the Avengers eating some shawarma. But the mid-credit scene was the important one. This revealed to us that this whole invasion was orchestrated by Thanos, the Mad Titan himself, and has got his eyes now set on Earth as his next target. The Avengers is a huge film with an astonishing cast. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner the Hulk, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff the Black Widow, Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton aka Hawkeye, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Clark Gregg as Phil Coulson, Colby Smulders as Maria Hill, Stellan Skarsgård as Eric Selvig, and Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, just to name a few. The Avengers is a monumental accomplishment not just for Marvel, but also Hollywood itself. It showed that various people at different studios could all come together and make a dream come true and defy what everybody was telling them. Just 5 years prior to this movie, everybody laughed at the joke of a multimedia connected shared universe. And the box office is a clear example that the audiences embraced it and were definitely behind Marvel. In my opinion, The Avengers is the best comic book movie of all time. I don't think it's on top of my favorite lists, but when you see just how monumental it is and what it pulls off, it's no doubt that this movie is a comic book come to life. This movie would not be possible had it not been started with Iron Man and that post-credits scene. And of course, adding layers upon layers of little Easter eggs in the previous films that didn't beat you over the head, but that let you know if you were in on what was happening, what was to come. The smart placement of things like the Tesseract and of course the history of everything that's happening definitely helped people understand what was going on. But even without that, on its own, it was a simple enough movie with a simple enough plot and enough explanation to get you through and have a good time. The legacy of The Avengers will forever be remembered as one of the films that forever changed the film industry, for better or for worse. This is more or less a film that was lightning in a bottle, a perfect place at the perfect time type of scenario. If Avengers was the start, then the future looked much brighter indeed.